Mind control. You know, it sounds like something straight out of a spy movie, doesn't it? But what if I told you that for the CIA, it wasn't just fiction? It was a very real and, frankly, a terrifying goal. We're about to dive deep into one of the weirdest, most controversial chapters in U.S. history, a top-secret program known as mkultra. It's a wild story of spies, secret experiments, and a desperate search for the ultimate weapon, total control of the human mind. So, how much of what you've heard is actually true? Let's find out. So this is the question, right? Could the government really control your mind? Because that's exactly what was keeping CIA agents up at night during the Cold War. You have to remember, this was a time of insane paranoia. The US and the Soviet Union were in this global staring contest, and the CIA was absolutely convinced the Soviets had a new secret weapon, the power to brainwash American soldiers. That terrifying idea sparked a secret war, one fought not with bombs, but with drugs and hypnosis, all to crack the code of the human mind before the other side did. So what was Project mkultra, officially? Well, it was the CIA's top secret and totally illegal program to figure out if mind control was even possible. Starting in 1953 and running for about 2 decades, they poured millions of dollars into finding ways to manipulate how people think, feel, and act. They were looking for the perfect truth serum, trying to figure out if they could program assassins. Basically, they wanted to build the ultimate weapon for psychological warfare. But did any of it actually work? Well, that's where the story gets really crazy. But why? Why would an agency go to such extreme lengths? To get it, you really have to put yourself back in the 1950s. Imagine living in a world that feels like it's on the brink of nuclear war. You're told the enemy could be anywhere, that anyone could be a spy. That was the reality of the Cold War. The paranoia was absolutely off the charts, and it was in that intense pressure cooker of fear that this dangerous idea for mkultra was born. And this is where that paranoia really went into overdrive. The CIA was terrified the Soviets had figured out how to brainwash people. See, they saw American POWs from the Korean War giving these strange robotic confessions on camera, and they jumped to one conclusion. It had to be some new kind of mind control. So what did they do? They decided to fight fire with fire. It was a classic arms race mentality. If they can do it, we have to do it better, and we have to do it first. And that's how the secret race to weaponize the human mind began. Okay, so the CIA has its secret mission, crack the code of the mind. But how in the world did they actually go about it? Well, this is where the story takes a really dark and deeply unsettling turn. Let's pull back the curtain and look at the bizarre and often horrifying experiments they conducted, all in the name of national security. I mean, look at this list. The CIA's methods read like something out of a horror movie. They tried pretty much everything you can imagine. Hypnosis, sensory deprivation, psychological torture, you name it. But their favorite tool, the one they got completely obsessed with, was LSD. They really thought this powerful hallucinogen might be the key, the thing that could shatter a person's will and let the CIA rebuild it however they wanted. And they were willing to do anything to test that theory, no matter who got hurt. And this is where it gets truly disgusting. These weren't willing volunteers who signed a waiver. No. The CIA's test subjects were often just ordinary people, completely unsuspecting citizens. They were patients in hospitals, inmates in prisons, people who had absolutely no idea they were being used in a secret government experiment. They were dosed with LSD and other drugs without their knowledge, without their consent. Their minds became a secret battlefield in the Cold War. They were, for all intents and purposes, human guinea pigs. And the agency was incredibly smart about how it covered its tracks. Get this, as one source put it, they conducted experiments at universities, hospitals, and prisons, often through front organizations that hid CIA involvement. Just think about that for a second. Some of the most respected institutions in the country were being used, sometimes without even knowing it, to host a secret mind control program. The whole thing was just vast, and it was hiding right there in plain sight. For 20 years, mkultra was a ghost, operating deep in the shadows of the U.S. government. But you know how it is. Even the deepest secrets have a way of crawling into the light. So how did this massive, illegal operation finally get busted? Well, the story of how it all unraveled is almost as strange as the program itself. Now here's the crazy part. The beginning of the end for mkultra was actually the CIA's own attempt to bury it for good. In 1973, there were whispers that Congress was starting to poke around, so the CIA director at the time, Richard Helms, did something drastic. He ordered all, or almost all, the records of the program to be destroyed. Decades of research, countless files, the names of the victims just gone. Poof. It was a desperate move, and because of it, we will probably never know the full, horrifying truth of what they did. So here's the quick and dirty timeline. For 20 years, from 53 to 73, MKUltra is running in total secrecy. Then, in 73, the CIA panics and starts shredding the evidence. But they didn't get it all. Just 2 years later, in 1975, a bombshell drops. A huge congressional investigation, the famous Church Committee, uncovers what's left of the program and blows the whole thing wide open. And just like that, a top-secret project becomes a massive national scandal. The discovery of MKUltra was a huge deal. It absolutely shattered public trust and, you guessed it, it fueled a whole new wave of conspiracy theories that are still with us today. So for this last part, let's do a little myth-busting. We're going to separate the cold hard facts from the wild Hollywood fiction. What did the CIA actually do, and what's just pure speculation? Okay, let's break it down. What do we know for sure? Fact: the CIA ran horrible, unethical experiments. Fact: they drugged American citizens with LSD without their consent. In fact, they deliberately destroyed most of the records to cover their tracks. That stuff is undeniable. But what about all the sensational claims, the things you see in spy movies? The idea of Manchurian Candidate-style assassins? Well, there's just no credible evidence that the CIA ever got close to that. The reality is that MKUltra was a massive ethical disaster, but scientifically it was a total flop. But if there is a silver lining to this very, very dark cloud, it's this. The MKUltra scandal was a massive wake-up call. The public was furious, and Congress had to do something. They passed new laws to put a tighter leash on intelligence agencies, and they created new rules to protect people in research experiments from ever being used like that again. Now, did it solve government secrecy forever? Of course not. But it was a start. It was a moment where people stood up and said, never again. And yet, even all these years later, the story of MKUltra just refuses to go away. It's become a part of our culture, this modern myth that we can't seem to shake. You see its fingerprints everywhere, from shows like Stranger Things to the Bourne movies, this idea of a secret government program messing with people's minds. It taps into our deepest fears about a powerful, shadowy government operating without any rules. And that's why, even though the program is long dead, the ghost of MKUltra still haunts us. And all of this brings us to the big one, the question at the very heart of this story. Where do we draw the line? How far is too far when you're talking about national security? MKUltra is such a chilling example of what happens when fear and paranoia are allowed to completely steamroll our ethics. And it's a question we are still dealing with today, right? In a world of surveillance and AI and all sorts of new technology. The tools have changed, but that basic question remains the same. And the story of MKUltra is there to remind us of the incredibly dark places we can end up when we forget to ask it.